It's the cry of generation. It's a stirring in our soul. It's dreams still in focus. It's hope still whole. For children that are and those who will be, our destiny is justice for once, for all, forever. Let it be. No more delays, denials can ignore our voices, nor suppress our choices. We come for all that God has gave, unashamed descendants of the indigenous immigrants and the once enslaved. For children that are and all those who will be, our destiny is justice for once, for all, forever. Let it be. Liberation when we read, love when we lead, moving at the speed of student needs, pushing against the abundance of oppressive greed. For children that are and all those who will be, our destiny is justice for once, for all, forever. Let it be. Because good, we're probably going to get some good stuff going. I think it's also knowing the process of, being in education, raising kids, raising our families. We understand that not everything happens on day one, right? It takes this constant effort of cultivation and care. It takes this constant effort of, weeding and pruning and making sure that the entire process is about love, right? And so you're one of those champions in my life. I remember, when you were at Archuleta, leading in Archuleta, and so tell folks who you are, and don't be shy, brag about yourself because you got a lot to brag on. I'm going to pull it out anyway, so.
I trust that.
Yeah.
So, my name is Dr. Darlene LeDoux. Do I look at you, Vernon?
No, we're just talking. That's good. Yeah.
Okay,
right
great.
here's good. Yeah.
Or for you, Darlene.
Yeah.
You always are so respectful, Dr. LeDoux.
Yeah.
But what do I say about myself? I born and raised in Denver. My family's from northern New Mexico. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
So, long time, very proud Chicana, and I'm an activist, lifetime activist, as well as a lifetime educator.
Yes.
And so my goal in life has to always been to help my community and to help kids of color and kids who need extra advocacy.
Yeah.
That has been my passion and
Yeah.
continues to be my passion to this day. Very family oriented. I'm very spiritual,
Yeah.
believe in God, and believe in the power of our people
Yes.
to especially work together. I really
Yes.
want to focus on that. I think that's so
Yes.
important. There's a lot going out there that I don't want to contribute to that's negative. I
That's
want to
right.
contribute to positive things, that things are going to help our people and help our communities rise and thrive.
Yeah. You grew up in Denver.
Yes.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to school at Fairmont, West Side,
Okay.
moved to the Southwest Side, Godsman, Rishel, which is no longer
Yeah.
open, and then bused to South High School. So I was a student during the busing days.
Yeah. What was that like? We talked with some folks who were students in the busing days last night. What was that like for you?
Well, I'll tell you. When I was in middle school, which you'll hear about, which was junior high in the day,
Yeah.
Vernon, they started busing, and I remember nobody prepared the kids for what was going to happen. I don't think the teachers were prepared. Just busing happened, and all of a sudden there were kids that the other kids didn't know at the school. And a few things happened. We became friends with kids that we would have never known.
Yeah.
Rishel was predominantly Chicano, Latino, and white, some African American. And when the busing happened, we had a lot more of our African American peers bust in, and so we became friends.
Yeah.
Same at South High School. Busing continued there, same thing. So I think it opened our eyes and opened up more friendships and more possibilities than we would have experienced because, as we all know, Denver's a segregated city.
Yes.
And so it's wonderful to have the opportunity to meet different people and to learn about different cultures and backgrounds and families.
Different foods.
Different
We
foods.
learned-
Oh, my favorite. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
When you think about that busing, we heard some different perspectives. I think that was one that resonated with us last night, where folks were like, we had friends that we never would have had because
Yes.
of the demographics of Denver at
Yes.
the time, and things like redlining and where people could live and couldn't live. And while busing was very traumatic for some because they were displaced from their home community and went to other communities, you found some solace in the fact that we made new friends. And some of you who've been in the education world forever, actually from those friendships then became colleagues
Yes.
teaching. And
Yes.
so you started teaching what year?
1978.
Okay. And what was your first school?
My first school was Del Pueblo.
Okay. Um,
It's Denver Gals now.
Denver Gals, yeah. So Miss Sandra Todd Williams, we talked with her last night, and that was her first school.
Is that
she
right?
taught at Del Pueblo.
Uh-huh.
And so, what was that experience like? You go from being a student
Yes.
in a very tumultuous time. Busing was tumultuous. The city was trying to figure itself out. How do we integrate? You lived through the Keys decision. That
Yes.
so busing's going on, and now you're teaching, right in the middle of this. From '78, busing went on to '95. What was your classroom like?
You know, Del Pueblo was a pretty integrated school in that the projects were nearby. So we had kids from a lot of different backgrounds. But one thing I do want to note, Vernon, is that I always wanted to return to my community. So that was intentional.
Yeah.
So I'd gone to Fairmont, which was not far from Del Pueblo as,
Yeah.
as a very young child.
Yeah.
Kindergarten, first and second grade. So my goal was to be back to my community. So right there I reached one of my goals,
Yeah,
that
that's
I was
right.
back in my community. I wasn't back at my same school, but I was not that far away from my
Right.
original school. So it was really important for me so that our kids had role models
Yes.
and people that looked like them, spoke their language, and also respected all the kids and all the families that came to the school, because you can't separate a kid from their family.
Right.
You know, we need to look at that whole unit
Yeah.
and realize that that's where all the respect is. That's when we talk about educating a child, it's really working with the entire family.
Right.
And honoring and respecting their culture and their traditions and their food and all the things that a student brings with them. Well, who drops them off every day? Their parents. Who's going to want to check on them? Their parents. So it's engaging the parents and doing that kind of work.
Right.
So I ended up back in that community, and that's what it was like to me, was that it was like it was home.
Yeah.
I felt like this is my community. I want to reach out. I want to bring people here. I want to go out myself.
Right.
Because we know that we just can't ask people to come to us. We need to go out. And you're very good at that.
Yeah.
That's something I also pride myself in, is
Yeah.
that what else is out there?
Right.
And how do we make sure we understand the context of the community when we're working with students in our schools?
Right. When I hear you talk, because I know you're a justice warrior, right?
Yes.
And so I hear.
Very proud.
Yeah, very proud. And I
Yes.
hear you saying that justice is honoring the humanity of students, honoring the humanity of their families,
Yes.
honoring all that they are. And we can't get to true justice in our education spaces until we do that. And
That's right.
we heard that last night too, again,
Yes.
from veteran educators.
Yes.
And how do you think we're doing? I mean, you had a role at the district. I always pronounce it wrong. The last role you had was the
Ombudsman?
Yes, the ombudsman.
Yes.
And that role was really to kind of like checks and balances, if you would say. Like, are we delivering? Are we doing
Right.
the things
Listening.
with the staff? Are we listening? How are we doing? And as a system, not specifically as one district, but in your view, as somebody who is a justice warrior, how are we doing with honoring the humanity of students and families, that holistic thing, and where are we failing? Where do you think we can be better?
When we talk about honoring our students and families, there are two things I'd like to talk about. One of them is the Bailey Report, and our dear sister, Sharon Bailey, researched and wrote the Bailey Report in around 2016, and where she interviewed our African American teachers in the district. And a bridge that I'm going to make now is that we just finished the La Raza report.
Yeah.
And that's interviewing similarly as Dr. Bailey did, but a little bit more extensive in the sense that it was students, parents, community, and employees.
Yeah.
So it was that larger group interviewed and their voices captured. There are a lot of similarities.
Yes.
So when you ask about how are we doing, I think we're doing okay.
Yeah.
I don't think we're doing great. But there are some really good things too that are going on. Number one is, I think, for example, and I can't speak for other school districts
Right.
because I don't know,
Right.
because my career has been in public schools. Brighton School District as a bilingual first grade teacher, Denver Public Schools as a teacher, as a school leader, elementary, secondary, as a central office leader, and then in Cherry Creek Schools, principal and director of human resources. So I've had 3 different school districts that I can, but what I can tell you is that our students can always do better. We can always do better for them.
Yes.
Let me switch that
Yes,
around.
that's, yeah.
We can always do better for our students, we can always do better for our families, we can always do better for our employees.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is listening to their voices, not making assumptions, here's what you should do, or here's
Right.
what we should do for you. It's like, what do we need to do? Just
Right.
like what you asked, how are we doing?
Right.
That's the question to ask people.
Right.
And that's what we did in the La Raza report, and that's what Dr. Bailey did also in the Bailey report. How are we doing? What things are going well and what things aren't going well?
Right.
And then addressing those things. So for example, students said overall things are going well. These were Latino students. I'll be more specific about the La
Yeah,
Raza because it was
yeah.
just finished.
Just yeah.
They overall like school, but they would like to see more curriculum, more diverse curriculum. They want to see themselves in curriculum. Our African American students said the same thing.
Right.
They want to have more curriculum about their culture. It isn't all about Plymouth Rock, what happened there, what happened here.
Right.
Let's talk more about slavery.
Right.
Let's talk more about what's happened with in our neighborhoods.
Right.
Let's talk more about what happened to not only our ancestors, but to us
Right.
now, more recently.
Right.
You know, they wanted to know what was happening. They want to have more options to careers. They hear about college all the time, which is great. That's a
Right.
big change because at one
Right.
point we didn't hear about
Didn't hear
college,
about
right?
that at
Kids of
all,
color
right.
did not hear much
No.
about college. In fact, what I wanted to talk to you about, Vernon, which I think is really important, is, you know, there was a question you had about activism and about why are you a warrior, or
Mhm.
where does this come from? And I just want to note that in 1969, and I know it's way past these gentlemen, they don't even have any idea what that was like, right? I was in middle school. I was in junior high at Rishel. And I walked out of school. That was during the Chicano walkouts.
Yeah.
That was during the West High blowout. And I was 13 years old. Now think about that.
Hmm.
I can't imagine that I even did that right now to this day.
Yeah.
But that's over 50 years ago. But I walked out of school because our rights were not being respected. Because we didn't have the same books that kids at East High School had. Our books were old, they were used. That was throughout the city for black and brown schools.
Yeah.
So at West, we finally, I wasn't at West, I was at Rishel, which was a feeder into West High School. But I remember as a student feeling those pains about, I didn't see any teachers that looked like me, any principals that looked like me, and or African American. They were pretty much, didn't look like us at all.
Right.
And so it was like, where are people that look like us? I know they're out there.
Right.
So how come I don't have them in this school? How come I don't see the teachers? I don't see the principal looking like that. The other thing was that just the materials. We knew that our materials were old and beat up. Whatever that was, it gave me the strength and the courage to say, I'm going to walk out. Now, mind you, Vernon, my parents didn't know this. I was a really good kid, quote unquote, whatever that means then. I hitchhiked to downtown Denver to the Crusade for Justice. I was scared. I'd never hitchhiked. Got there, and then at the Crusade, they welcomed all the kids that walked out. This was the second day of the walkout. So the first day of the West High walkouts, I want to note that that's when the students walked out, over 100 students, and said, hey, you're the same reasons I just mentioned. There
Yeah.
are no people like us. You're disrespecting us. But the real reason they walked out at West was there was a white teacher who was really disrespecting our Chicano students. He
Yeah.
was saying their last names incorrectly. He was making fun of them. He was making fun of the food they eat. He was doing things like that, and that created the bomb somewhat. No, that's not
Yeah.
real, but and so we said, wait a minute, he's not the only one doing that. There are other teachers that are doing that too.
Right.
And so we want to be seen and heard. So long story short, we heard about the first day, which was March 20th, which was my birthday, by the way. I just turned 13, just so that you know, I was 12, right? So I turned 13 on that day. We heard about it, and there were no cell phones in those days. There was no Twitter. There were no accounts, no
Right.
Facebooks, nothing. We heard about what had happened, and I'm sure I didn't even read the newspaper then.
Right.
We heard about it throughout the city, and not only did brown students walk out, but we had black students walk out from Manual and East High School to join us. And so that's the kind of unity that I'm working toward,
Yes.
that we continuously help each other because we have some of the same struggles. So
Yeah, because injustice is injustice.
injustice
right?
is injustice for everybody.
Yeah,
right?
injustice is a threat to justice everywhere,
That's
right? And
right.
so, 13, right?
13.
13.
Just turned 13.
Yeah,
Now that
just-
I think about that, it's like, oh my gosh, I just turned 13.
That was your coming of age, right?
That was.
So to that point, how are we doing today? Because what I loved about the fact is you said I was 13 and I was informed about what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
You knew that there was injustice. Do we believe that our students today understand the injustices that they are experiencing? And if they understood, And we see some of it. We see some of the manifestations. We've seen
Yes.
students walk out. We march with students from East High
Yes.
School. You know, we've been on the front lines with
Yes,
them.
we have.
But do they know you should have these books, right?
Mm-hmm.
You should have this curriculum. What do you think?
I would like to see a lot more of them know
Yeah.
that and have action, positive action to stand up for more
Yeah,
than what they have.
right.
Our students are really bright. We know that.
Yes.
We want high expectations for our students in our schools. What I say is I think, you know, a lot of us have spoiled our kids, Vernon, let's be honest here, right? I'll speak for myself, I don't know about you.
Yeah.
But
I'll
I
take
know
that.
I spoil my grandkids,
Yeah.
you know, we've wanted more for our families than what we had,
Yes.
than what we had growing up, than what I had on the west side of Denver
Yeah.
growing up.
Yeah.
And what my parents wanted more for me, and I want more for my kids. And maybe we've given them a little too much. I'm just speaking personally. Although my daughters are both activists, and I'm very proud of them for that reason. They are both warriors for justice.
Yeah.
I think what we need to do is make sure our students know what else is out there, what else they
Yes.
could have. And I'm not talking materialistically.
Right.
I'm talking as far as justice, as far as rights, as far as opportunities, not just for themselves, but for others too.
Yes.
You know, we know this. We may have certain rights and certain opportunities that some of us have, but there are a
Right.
lot of our kids and families that don't have access
Yes.
to those opportunities. I take it as part of my responsibility as an ambassador, as an advocate, in Spanish as a picador, kind of picking
Yeah.
out the system,
Yeah.
to make sure that we help provide that. No, not provide something or help with something that's not wanted,
Yeah.
but for people that don't have that access, help them see how to possibly access those
Right.
opportunities.
You speak to my heart. You know, this has always been in our relationship too, is that our solidarity is our strength. That
Yes.
if you are hungry, I'm concerned about it. If I'm hungry, I know you're concerned about
Yes.
it. And when I look at our community now, I see bad actors sometimes trying to create this black-brown divide. And that's not how you operate, that's not how I operate.
No.
And if we look historically, we've never achieved justice
Ever,
divided,
ever,
right?
right.
So how do we ensure that this stays and we don't let bad actors come in and make this about black versus brown or brown
Yes.
versus white? Where this becomes about kids and
Yes.
doing right by them and wanting to see generation to generation
Yes.
thrive.
And families, Vernon, I'm really glad you said that, that you asked me that question, because I want you to know that is one of my main motivators for a lot of the things I do. I have always believed in stronger than the partnership, but the co-conspirator piece, where we actually plan together.
Yes.
Not just be there. We want to be there. That's great.
Right.
When we need each other, but that we're actually planning things together.
Yes.
So let me give you an example. Dr. Bailey and I would talk daily on the phone, sometimes 2 or 3 times. I was looking at my phone records. I couldn't believe how often we spoke when she was starting the Ombuds office before she passed.
Yeah.
And I remember just talking about the movement. You know, Dr. Bailey was very, very strong advocate for our African American community, our
Yes.
Black community. And she knew I was a very strong advocate for our Chicano, Mexicano, Latino community. But we also knew we were strong advocates for each other.
That's right.
And each other's community. So let me give you an example. This is something like really
Yeah.
powerful,
Yeah.
that just happened yesterday. I've been working with the Congress of Hispanic Educators to help them put together all their documents from the 60s and 70s, and we're going to, the Denver Public Library wants that, which is great. We want them to have it so everybody could have access to
Right.
it. Guess what I found? We're going through the documents. I open up this yellow document, kind of old, on paper, you know, and in there is not only some of the original Keys case documents, the legal documents, but also, you know, in the Keys, when the Keys family, and I strongly support that,
Yeah.
all that legal piece of the Keys
Yeah.
case and desegregating the
Yeah.
district and everything. But, you know, along with the Keys family was a Latino family
right.
and other families.
That's right.
But also the Congress of Hispanic Educators were plaintiff interveners. And I'm going to get a copy and give it to
Well,
you.
I'd love that.
But you should see the names on the plaintiff interveners. brown names, black names, white names, of
Yes.
people that supported it.
Yes.
People don't see that, Vernon. We
Yeah.
have to let people know the history.
That's right.
And it goes back to understanding that there might be some people there that you and I both
Yeah.
know. I didn't recognize, I recognized one name out of all those different names. They're older than us,
Yes,
perhaps.
yes.
But the point is, people in our community will know the people who signed that document. We were together working on the rights for our kids in Denver. Let's always remember that. So what I do is I do bring it up to people. I'll say,
Yes.
you know what? This happened when Dr. Martin Luther King came and spoke here in Park Hill in the 60s. Corky Gonzalez and others were there with
That's
him.
right.
They talked to each other prior.
Right.
See, the movement is, you can never do it alone.
That's right.
And there's always enough resources for all of us, so we've got to continue to include each other. So when we
Yes.
talk about Black excellence in Denver Public Schools, Black excellence is for everyone, making
right.
sure that all of our kids are reaching and achieving the high levels that we know they can achieve. Brown excellence, the same thing.
That's right.
Indigenous excellence, name it. So it is reminding ourselves, because it's easy to get stuck
Yes.
in what makes
Our
us feel
own
most
silo,
comfortable.
Yeah. But I appreciate your time. I appreciate the fact that I know that you are a justice warrior, and I know that you know that we will only realize justice together, that we will
Yes.
only get there if we continue what our ancestors did.
Yes.
They came together and said, if we want this for us and we want this for you,
Yes.
we got to move together. And I really appreciate you, your leadership, your continued service, the fact that you are just, this is the children's program. I was about to say a badass, but I guess it can edit that out, But the fact that that's who you are, and that
Thank
you
you.
are just someone who's spoken into my life, encouraged me, and also helped me understand, like, this is us,
Yes.
right? And we move together.
Yes.
So you would say that justice is achievable if we move together.
Justice is always achievable, and we always will move together
Yeah.
to achieve that justice.
Yeah.
And I do think it's important that we respect all of the unique pieces of our community and of who we are, but also really honor our unique culture, history, background, and always support each other, because we're stronger when we're together.
Yeah.
And I want to share with you, I have always admired you
Oh, thank you.
and respected you. Your heart is always open,
Mm.
your mind is always open, and you always are doing good for our entire community. And I want to thank you for this opportunity, and always wanting to make sure that we are keeping our eye on the ball,
Yeah.
which is our
You're
people
not
and
just
our
trying to make me
community.
cry on this,
No,
Doctor.
but I'm telling you,
Yeah.
I mean that, or I wouldn't say
I
that. I'm
appreciate
pretty straight up.
You are. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Thanks so much.
you're
And
welcome.
we look forward to sharing this and continuing to work with you.
Yeah, thank you. And
Yeah.
just two things I want to say really quickly.
Yeah.
They're really important. When we are warriors of justice, we also play different roles within that, right? We're almost like transformers.
Yeah.
So we can be picadores, which is picking at the system. We can be somebody who's hired within the system and work within the system out, which also is necessary.
Yes.
And we also sometimes have to be folks that have to say, this isn't working. We've
Right.
got to do something completely different.
Yeah.
But we have to continue. It's a marathon.
Yes.
It's going to be a long journey. It's up the mountain, down the mountain, around
Yeah.
the mountain.
Yeah.
But we can do this.
We can do it. Thank you for joining us this week on the Justice Cast. If you are moved and inspired by what you heard this week, we need you to do justice by doing 3 things. Number 1, like and share this episode with your friends and family and network. Number 2, sign and share the Do Justice Pledge. And 3, join us for an upcoming Do Justice action. You can find those listed on our website at www.faithbridgeco.org. That's www.faithbridgeco.org. Remember, the world we believe for is possible. Do justice.
Thank you to Darlene LeDoux for being our guest this week. Thank you to our funders and sponsors. Join us next week when Vernon sits down with former Denver Public Schools Chief of Portfolio Office, Jennifer Holliday.